Following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on a break!
With Ambar Garcia, Bryan Broaddus, Nick Harris, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Thursday, September 19th, 2024, season 20, episode number 23. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We are live at the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, presented by LG. LG is the world's #1 OLED TV brand for 11 years and counting. See why at lg.com/OLED Evo. How's everybody doing today?
Can't get this chair up today. It's another one.
Here we go. Just sliding up.
Doing well.
We're
yeah.
good?
Yeah.
All right, good. We got Amber back with us today. Welcome back to the show.
Have to be back.
We missed you yesterday.
Yeah,
Thank you
Hispanic
for gracing
Heritage
us.
Month. I was just telling Derek, I'm like, the irony in being Hispanic Heritage Month means the Hispanic, has more work to do this month. So, cheers
Nothing more
to
American.
me.
Nothing more American.
More work.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
get it done. All right, let's dive in. We got a lot of things we're going to talk about today. We're going to start on some injury updates. Quite a few guys jumped onto the injury report yesterday that had not been there. Some top line guys. We'll talk about that here in a second. We'll get into the Dallas offense versus the Baltimore defense. Somewhere in the second segment and into the third segment. We may even have some time for some phone calls. We'll see. The number's 888-855-2297. And as I said before, I'm going to be your advocate on this show. So I'm going to try very hard to get Amber to give you time to be able to call in and give us some feedback. Let's start first with injury updates. Trayvon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Mozzie Smith all pop up on the injury report. Did not practice yesterday for foot, ankle, and back injuries, respectively. What do we know right now about these injuries?
Yeah, we could start with Mozzie Smith. We saw him come off of the practice field during the media portion of the practice yesterday with head trainer Dr. Jim Maurer. He was coming off and kind of holding his back a little bit, so there was some back issues that he's dealing with, and I think it's reflective of kind of what happened on Sunday as well, because if you go back on tape, you can kind of see Mozzie leaning back a little bit at times. I'm not theorizing, but there is times you can see Mozzie kind of leaning back and grabbing
I don't know which touchdown it was, but he kind of turned one time and you could see him lower back and the left side, grab him.
Yeah, so definitely something to keep an eye on, especially with Jordan Phillips going on the IR yesterday. If they're down 2 defensive tackles going into Sunday, then there's probably an opportunity for a Denzel Jackson or a Phil Hoskins to get elevated from the practice squad. And the CeeDee Lamb ankle did not practice, and Trayvon Diggs' foot did not practice. At least from my conversations, there doesn't seem to be any major concern. It's more so just giving those guys some rest on a Wednesday practice, and I expect them to be in a limited fashion today.
That's good to know. As soon as we saw the injury report yesterday, I think Nick came off. He's like, "Have you seen the injury report?" And it obviously, when those guys pop up, you get a little nervous, especially for me, CD, because he didn't have a training camp, and so as they're ramping him up, you're like, okay, you want to see him and you want to get more of him, but you also want to be smart and make sure that it doesn't overly expose him to injury. So glad to hear that that's not a major situation. My question becomes, if, let's say, for example, at this point, where you are at the cornerback position, if this becomes a problem for Trayvon, what do the Cowboys do with regards to the cornerback position?
Yeah, they have options in Andrew Booth that they acquired via trade over the during training camp. They have Israel Mukwamu as well that they could use in an instance like that. But I'm not too concerned about game availability, but just in case it did pop up in a game and they needed somebody to fill in and make something happen there. Those are two guys you look at. Also, a couple of corners on the practice squad who have a lot of experience as well. So if they needed to elevate somebody just to have someone ready, there's options to do that.
Got it.
No C.J. Goodwin in those games for you?
No comment.
Here you go. There you go. Look,
hey,
Bryan just stirring it up. He's just stirring it up. All right.
You're with a different body now, so I can kind of go at you a little bit.
Look, he doesn't have the same worries as before.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
like,
walking through these halls makes it a little different.
I don't have to get on the plane. That's what he's like. I don't have to get on the plane. I'm good.
Exactly.
Talk to me about Jake Ferguson. and John Stevens, who were both limited yesterday.
You're
with
going to hate that, by the way.
And hamstring injury. Yeah, I know, right? The best thing about
Laughing
going on
now
road
and then
trips is
crying.
literally, I can literally be on the plane and I'm back
Go
home. Even
home.
if it's at 3 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah,
I
I'm
wake up in my own bed the next morning.
I'm home.
Yeah. John Stevens and Jake Ferguson, who missed the last game, both limited in practice yesterday. Are we getting closer, and is there a possibility that maybe we see one or both back playing this weekend?
I think both of these guys are back on Sunday. Really good sign to see them both in a limited fashion yesterday. There's some confidence from Mike McCarthy from his press conference yesterday as far as Ferguson's availability, and then to see Stevens walking around and getting a limited session in. He had that leg sleeve around his, I believe it's the left leg that he's dealing with the hamstring. Don't quote me on that. But it's good to see both of those guys on the field. I think when you look at the rest of the injury report, I mean, there's some good confidence that you can have. Marshawn Nealon with the calf that he was kind of battling last week, he was a full participant. And then Zach Martin, with the knee that he came out with for a few plays on Sunday, he was limited, so he was at least able to get on the field. Other than what you see with Mozzie Smith, I really don't see any major concerns as far as game availability on Sunday.
Yeah, having and we'll get into this, the one thing that the Ravens have had trouble with is tight ends. They've given up some pass plays down the field to some tight ends. The Raiders are got two of the better ones, and so this in anything that you can do to kind of bring up the you could kind of bring up their availability, and then working against with Eddie Jackson and then Marcus Williams. That's a good thing.
I'm curious to know something.
Me too.
You have somebody that handles your sunglasses.
Right, and I'm
yeah, me too.
we getting
but go
deliveries here
Well,
on the air.
I forgot them upstairs, so I needed them because my eyes hurt.
Does he
But
know how bad you talk about storyline? I just want to know. Anyway.
I don't talk that bad.
That
It's just friendly.
That
It's just
bad.
friendly. No, but with John Stevens, I mean, I know he's a guy that we're all eager to see and have back on the field, and we've seen him be a very good player. But what are your current expectations, knowing that he's been out this period of time, and then once he comes back in, I mean, what's the level there of what you're expecting for him to do or look like?
Yeah, there's low expectations, but I think they're going to give him opportunities in the receiving game. I think you'll see him in line. I think you'll see him split out in some slot situations. I mean, he has this receiving background. They needed a little bit of receiving juice, so it wouldn't surprise me if he gets 2-3 targets in this game on Sunday if he's active.
Yeah, like I said, especially with the way the Ravens have kind of struggled in the second, this is really unusual for them for first 2 weeks of the season to be as poor as they played. Teams are finding ways to throw the ball on them, at least through the first 2 weeks, and we'll get into that. Running the football is a whole nother story, but throwing the football has been very successful for teams. So, him being out there, a vertical threat, an underneath threat. I mean, to me, that's if you threw the ball to him, and this is no slam at Span Ford on fourth down, I think I might have been able to make a catch. I know that was a tough chance with contested plays and stuff, but if you're saying you're going to throw the ball to that kid, I'm like, okay, I got a shot to make a play here. Span Ford, I don't know that yet. I mean, that was the first time out of the blocks, and and that wasn't his his cup of tea at Minnesota.
Yeah.
The thing with Stevens is we've seen him make plays.
Yeah.
So having another guy that has length and has the ability to get down the field and can make some plays, you're just going to need as many of those guys on the field as you can. So expectations, throw them out there and see what happens, because you could be surprised by how well he could play.
To that point about Baltimore, I know we'll dive more into it later on, but first in the NFL in opponent rushing yards allowed through 2 weeks. 32nd in the NFL in passing yards allowed. The first 2
Are you
weeks.
looking at my notes?
Maybe so.
It's clear when we get into it. I mean, they've got a couple of guys inside you'd love to have.
Yeah.
I mean, they've kind of figured out that, like, no, you're not going to run the ball. But they play in a division that's like that. That NFC, the AFC North. You better be ready to play with some some power up front, and they surely do.
You know, it's ironic when you talk about John Stevens. It's ironic that this week the Cowboys are playing a team that I think has a comparable type player. Likely is very much like, in my opinion, like a John Stevens. He's a guy that can get downfield.
I like that.
He goes vertical on you. Like he has a really interesting game, and I think that's a dynamic. And the way that they use their 2 tight ends, I think that's a dynamic that can add something to this Cowboys offense. Because quite frankly, what I think we've seen in the first couple weeks, or at least what I think, is I don't know how much I'm going to want to rely as the season goes on the depth of the wide receiver position. You've got one of the best, if not the best, wide receivers in the game. The next thought is, can you utilize those tight ends? And then utilizing those 2 tight ends, that can open up some opportunities for some of the other wide receivers. I'm not certain. After I went back and watched the film of that last game, there were a number of plays where those guys weren't getting open. They just weren't open. It was just a situation where they just weren't getting any separation. And if that continues to be the case, I think the tight ends may end up being your next best option outside of CeeDee Lamb. And then maybe it opens up other things for the guys.
I think in the preseason and leading up into the regular season, we kind of talked about, if you had to say where the targets are going to go, it was going to be Lamb 1, Ferguson 2. Yeah. And then Cooks and everybody else was going to have to kind of figure some things out. But I think you're absolutely on to something there. I think not having Ferguson in that game, did it help? No. Do you think it could have helped? Yeah, it could have. Maybe that offense looked like there was times where they were just fighting to get first downs. Yeah. And maybe you could have made some plays down the field, and you got down in the red zone and stuff. One thing Ferguson's good at is getting open. He knows how to kind of work and find space, and his run after catch. That's something big. You talk about, with the Ravens, their guys, that's what it is. Throw it to them short, and next thing you know, likely he's running it's a short pass, and now it's a 15-yard gain because of run after catch, and that's what you get out of Ferguson. If you tell me every time, like last year, every time you throw him the ball, it was 10 yards. I think it was 10.7 every time you threw him the ball. Yeah. So, taking that off the field didn't exactly help your chances last week.
Yeah, they left a lot on the table in the red zone specifically. And I think having Ferguson would have changed that a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even when you look at Schoonmaker and some of the catches he made last week, I think an interesting point was there were some times when he was out and isolated with one guy. You have Ferguson out there. There's a good chance Ferguson makes that guy miss. Yeah. Well, that's what we've seen in his career. Yeah. So even some of the stuff where I thought Schoonmaker did a good job, I think Ferguson may have been able to squeeze out even a little bit more out of those plays, and that could have been more helpful in a game, like you said, Brian, where you were struggling to get first down.
You were struggling, and the game might have turned into the Pelicans versus the Mavericks. It might have been 106 to 105 if you had, because neither team was. But to me, that's the one thing that I was encouraged by, and we talked about this, was Luke Schoonmaker. So now, if say you do get guys going here, say you do get these 2 tight ends going, if you get Stevens going and then Ferguson back in the mix, and Schoonmaker's shown as an option, as a guy that, as many of those guys as you can get going, because a lot of teams just don't have the ability to cover tight ends. They can cover wide receivers all day. These tight ends are a challenge, especially the big ones that are athletes.
And then throw 2 at them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that makes it even easier to get the mismatches you want.
Simple throws.
Yep. All right, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to dive into the Cowboys offense versus the Baltimore defense. We'll be back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
If you can't be at the stadium, there's no better way to watch your Cowboys than on an LG OLED Evo TV. That's because everything you see is more lifelike. Every play, every hit. I mean, you might as well be on the sidelines. That's how clear it is. It's all thanks to LG's legendary technology. Perfect black, over 8.3 million self-lit pixels. No one comes close. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game for a reason. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
Don't put off getting your oil change, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change, a proud partner of the Cowboys, is faster than you think. There's no appointment needed and no waiting room. Yep, you heard that correctly. Take 5 is so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's fast, friendly, and simple service at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
If you shout, "How about them Cowboys?" you have that undeniable passion that's the heart of Cowboys Nation. And if you like to drink Dr. Pepper, you love the unique blend of its 23 flavors. Together, your one-of-a-kind fandom paired with the one-of-a-kind taste of a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper is the game day lineup that can't be beat. Better yet, gather your Cowboys and Dr. Pepper fan friends to watch the next game and crack open a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper for everyone. The wins will be even tastier. It's a pepper thing.
Life doesn't stop when the economy is uncertain. The market might not care you have a wedding to plan or a kid to put through school. And inflation doesn't know you've got a family to feed. But Bank of America does, and is here to help. With digital tools to help you save and local experts nearby, you can keep life moving forward the way you need it to. Bank of America. What would you like the power to do? Learn more at bankofamerica.com. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC, equal credit opportunity lender.
Back to the break.
Welcome back.
Wow.
It is the second segment of the break,
one of
live
those
from the SWB. This show is off the rails today.
I got us. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game, but don't take our word for it. Digital Trends said the LG OLED G4 is the best picture quality they've ever seen. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
Thank you. Thank you, my man.
That was that moment.
Welcome back, Amber.
I
One
am
of those
here.
days.
I am here.
Yeah, it's one of
Hey,
those
you've
days.
had your moment.
No, that's what
you
I'm
had
saying. It's
your
one of those
moment.
days.
I think I won the
Bryan,
job.
what's yours?
I'm
Yeah,
about
right.
to have it.
I think I won the
You're
job.
about to have it.
say.
This is one of those days. Our producer's losing his mind back there.
I'm losing my mind
I think Chris
here.
is having one today. Like, what are y'all doing? Anyway, welcome back. This is the second segment of the break live from SWBC Morgan Studios. At the start of the segment, brought to you by blockchain.com. Got that right.
Yeah, you got that one today.
All right, here we go. Let's go. Cowboys offense versus the Baltimore defense. As you mentioned before the break, Cowboys defense. Baltimore's defense dead last in pass yards allowed this season, which I'm not used to seeing a Baltimore defense be dead last in anything. They are typically a very, very solid defense, but they are giving it up here in the first 2 weeks of the season. My question for you, Bryan, is this more a function of who they've played or more a function of the fact that they are just bad at it? Or another option could be they're so good against the run, as you mentioned, they're number one against the run, that teams feel like, well, we just have to throw the ball, and that gets more yards because you're just doing it more frequently. What do you think it is?
They're 0-2 against Gardner Minshew. He's beat him twice now. Beat him last year at Indianapolis and beat him here at with the Raiders. So they don't want to see Gardner Minshew play anymore. But he was
It's a Mike Leach quarterback.
Yeah,
I was about to say neither do the Raiders
I think
fans.
it
but
was 30 of 38 throwing the ball.
Yeah.
You know, and if you watch the game and stuff, there was some stuff behind the line of scrimmage and some screens and things like that. But when he had to make some clutch throws, he made some clutch
He took
throws.
advantage of Devontae Adams.
Yeah,
did some
absolutely.
things,
yeah, absolutely. And
Impressive.
and that's where you got to. They're not getting the pressures that they had in the past. Montebique, their defensive tackle is one of the better ones when you start to talk about those under tackles, 3 techniques, guys that play inside. His pressure rates are down, and you can watch when he's not getting off blocks like he was. Kansas City did a nice job of holding him up. The Raiders had some problems. They had more problems with the edges with away. The first round pick from Penn State was a problem for them for a couple of sacks. But they just haven't been getting the pressure that they have in the past. And what's happened too is a guy like Marlon Humphrey, who's been just an all-pro player for him, has got off into a really bad start. And they played him more in the slot. You can watch him play some slot. They're trying to get Nate Wiggins, who we talked about in the draft show from Clemson. He was a first-round pick last year. They're trying to get him on the field. Jalen Amore Davis is another backup. They're trying to get on the field, so they're trying to rotate these corners with Brandon Stevens and then Humphrey. Humphrey's not coming off the field, but it's kind of like they're trying to get guys involved in the defense, but with the lack of pressure and then their best player coverage-wise having to place mostly in the slot so they can get Wiggins on the field, they've had a little bit of some problems there. And teams have been able to complete some passes on them because there has been some separation. There's been a couple of different times where they have lost receivers. I mean, there was a couple of times against Kansas City where could have been huge plays. I mean, these guys are giving up these explosive plays, and that's something that they never ever do. But I think I went back and just looked at the metrics because I kept saying, "Man, that's unlike it's unlike the Ravens."
Mm-hmm.
They had 14 of them.
Wow.
That explosive plays already in the passing game.
Just in these 2 games.
Just in 2 games.
Wow.
And they could have given up more. If you watch Kansas City, Pacheco on the wheel, they try and get up the sidelines. It looks like to me that Humphreys is kind of confused. Are they playing zone? They playing man? And but the ball's too far up the field, and they came back with it and missed it again. And you're like going, man, those are 2 shots right there. But they're struggling a little bit on the back end, and what they're having to do too is Kyle Hamilton, the safety, and I can't figure out the way that he's playing. I'm just trying to get a bead because he's a guy you have to be aware of. He wears number 14. He's almost playing like a linebacker, like what we saw with Curse. So he's a nickel safety. They got 2 regular safeties. He's playing as a linebacker. He's playing in the slot. He's going to match up against. I have a feeling he's going to be the guy that's going to carry Ferguson in this game. And that's a tall, long guy that can move a little bit.
To that same point, he's such an important guy for them.
Yeah.
Did not practice yesterday with a back injury, so something to keep an eye on as the week goes
Yeah.
on. But when I look at this Ravens defense, yes, they have the Roquan Smiths and Nnamdi Madubuike, but it's Kyle Hamilton for me. That's the guy you need to be able to neutralize.
Yeah, the Hamilton, because he can play all these spots. You see him at safety, you see him at nickel, slot, and then you see him also, though, as the linebacker. But he's playing a lot more near the line of scrimmage than he ever has. And they're trying to, but I don't know if it's trying to they worry about things in the running game. To me, their running game, they got massive dudes up front. I mean, when you look at Michael Pierce, he's 355 pounds. I mean, he's just a big but their guys their guys are able to control and then get rid of blockers. Like you try and block these guys, they're holding up blocks, but they're also getting rid of blockers as they're getting to the football. So you see them hold, rib, boom, now make a tackle. That they're really, really good. Him, Travis Jones, I mean, they've got some size inside, and they got length on the edge. Kyle Van Noy is a veteran guy who's kind of bounced around a little bit. But
another guy that did not practice yesterday, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a big one.
But him and the first round pick Owe from 2021, they've got some length on the edge, and they've got size inside, and then they got Roquan Smith, who's a shorter middle linebacker, but he's one of the, it's one of those things like. If you don't block him, he's going to make all the tackles. I mean, he just got a nose for the ball. He has had a couple times, though, where it's interesting where he's had a chance to make tackles, though, and miss in space, which is kind of not his, but he's a very physical player. He runs to the ball. They take advantage of him a little bit some in coverage. Kansas City matched him up a couple of times on their tight ends, and he had a little bit of a struggle. So Kansas City formationed him to have to play in some coverage, and that was a little bit of a struggle for him. So as a whole, yeah, you're probably not going to be able to run the ball against these guys. But if you find a way there, and slow down any type of their pass rush, but I went back and looked at this too. Their metrics say they've been really slow off the ball. These are things that they look at. What's your get off time for your linemen? The Ravens have been one of the slower teams in the league when it comes to getting off the ball for these pass rushes. So slow off the ball, not getting pressure. When they blitz, they don't get home. That's been a problem, and teams have taken advantage. At least Kansas City and the Raiders took advantage of that, and they've been able to win on the outside against these corners and these safeties. And that might be the trick for the Cowboys, because I just don't think running the football is going to be anything that you can have any type of, let's hang our hat on this one. I just think it's going to be hard to block Pierce. I think it's going to be hard to block Jones. And again, the length on the edge will probably give you a little bit of problem too.
Which, if you had to identify one matchup, if you're the Cowboys, that you would want to try to create, knowing their weakness in the secondary, combined with a strength for you, what would be that matchup for this game?
Did you have any idea? Did you look at them? I got one in mind. I would try and get Lamb on Brandon Stevens is who I would try and get.
See, I was thinking Cooks on Stevens, but I think Lamb has some ability to be able to separate from him as well.
Yeah,
but I think Cooks
sounds
on
like Stevens is the guy.
Yeah,
it depends on who you want to get on it.
It's not even necessarily like, okay, you need to attack that guy because he's not good.
Right,
he's good. It's just it's the least of the powers, I guess.
I think I don't want to. I've seen Humphrey make so many damn plays in his day that I don't know if I want to challenge that. They challenged the Raiders tried to challenge him on a play, and Gardner Minshew threw the ball short and ended up being an interception.
Yeah,
and you're like going, oh geez, why'd you do that, bro? But to me, Marlon Humphrey in the slot has been it's not his. I don't know if that's his game. I mean, he usually plays the left corner. He's very comfortable doing that. He's a good reader, and he could adjust with you. It seemed like when Kansas City got him in the slot a little bit, they hit it quick, and it was before he even had a chance to react. So maybe if they walk him into the slot to play against, say, Lamb, that might be an area. But on the outside, I don't know how much I would challenge him on the outside. In the slot, I might challenge him more. But if I'm going to go after one of these guys, I mean, that depends on too how Wiggins. He's a rookie. If you see number 2 out there, I would think that okay, he's got quickness. He's a small guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is.
Physically, he's a small. Yeah, he's a small.
170.
Yeah, but he could run.
Can you run at him? Like running the ball, is he not a liability in the run game?
The problem is
I don't think he'd be on the field on early
downs. No, not on early
yeah.
downs, no. But it's funny. They're trying to get their corners all to play. It's not like they're trying to say, okay, we're just going to go with these. Like there's 66 plays, and you look at the end of the day, and Diggs has played 66 of them. No, they're trying to get their guys acclimated. I just don't know how much I would attack Humphrey, even though he's off to not a all-pro start like he's had before. He's given up. He's given up some catches already in these 2 games, and that's very surprising for him.
The reason I say Cooks on Stevens is, and this is no shade against CeeDee Lamb, I think he's a phenomenal route runner. I think Brandon Cooks is the best route runner on this team from a fluid standpoint. From at the top of routes, he creates separation. And from what I've seen from Brandon Stevens, at least, is at those breaks, he has a little bit of hesitation. If he has even just the slightest of hesitation on a guy like Brandon Cooks, then I want to be able to attack that. And I'm completely okay with CeeDee Lamb going up against a Marlon Humphrey, just because CeeDee Lamb typically does kind of shine in those moments whenever he does have the star all-pro corner on the other side of him.
I like what you're doing here. I do.
But there's going to be options for sure.
See, the thing is, in Ambar, they never use Cooks like we want them to use Cooks.
That's what I was going to...
And I knew that's what you're thinking.
Exactly what I was thinking as Nick was speaking. I'm like, yeah, sure, sounds great. If they use him. That's a big if.
Rams game last year, that's the only one I could think of.
I mean,
of course, I lost the bet and had to eat the hot chip, but, they knew when to use them correctly is when I was on the line.
It's gonna be a big challenge. And do you guys have the metrics on how they are in like red zone defense?
I'll cook that up.
Yeah, I was, to me, when I was watching, I was curious of why they were so bad in the field on pass.
Yeah.
And then when you watch the pass rush, lack of at times, and then the pressures. I was more curious by how they were playing those in the field. I was like, how can this team? Sometimes if you're really good at run defense, they throw the ball on you and that's all they can do. In this case, they're not as good as they've been in the past. This is a top 3. Now they've lost a lot of people. When coaches. They lost their defensive coordinator to Seattle as a head coach. They lost 2 of their coaches to defensive coordinator jobs. I mean, this is a first-time defensive coordinator they got working here right now. So you might be catching them at the right time here. before they kind of get things going here. But I was more curious about how they were playing in the field than I was with the red zone stuff.
19th in the NFL in allowing touchdowns in the red zone. Just for curious notes, dead last is the Dallas Cowboys defensively, and then offensively they are tied for 29th. So really bad red zone on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, well that may be the elixir that Dallas needs, because the red zone is an area I think they're going to have to really, as Amber's been talking about here, stop kicking field goals. Like, get down there and get in the end zone. Maybe this is the week when they can do that. Real quick, Bryan, before we go to break, I also wanted to ask you if we come in here Monday and we say the Ravens pass rush just really got after Dak.
Yeah.
Who is the most likely person that could wreck this game from that standpoint?
It's Owe. It's number 99. Him and Matabike, 92. I mean, do
they flip him, or does he pretty much stay on one side?
No, Matabike plays tackle.
Tackle, okay.
So, but yeah, you'll get Owe and Van Noy will be the two guys, and yeah, you'll get some flip from those two guys is what you'll do. But I kind of feel Van Noy is a veteran guy. As Nick mentioned, he's a little banged up right now. Owe, I think, just has this length to him, and his ability to capture the edge. And I know in the Raiders game the other day that, they really had a problem with him because they couldn't get out of their stance fast enough to get out to, and maybe it's a situation because you're playing a road game and stuff, and, you really can't, you're not hearing the snap counts and things like that. But I would worry about, if they're going to get after you, I would worry about 99 being the guy. And
do they play him at the 1, the 3? Like, where does he typically...
92, Matabike.
I'm talking about Owe.
He plays as an end. He's really listed as an outside linebacker.
Okay, I thought you were saying they move him to defensive tackle.
No, they move him side to side. They move him left and right.
And that's what I was asking initially. Okay, I got you.
So left and right, and then Matabike is the defensive tackle that you have to worry about, because he's the one guy that, when he does come off the ball, he's got the quickness, but he hasn't played that way through 2 games. The pressures are way down on all these guys. It's surprising, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's something that I want to talk about when we come back from break. I want to talk about specifically the Cowboys' offensive line and some pressures that they've been giving up, and how you guys assess their play through the first 2 and how they match up against this defensive front. We'll do that when we come back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag & Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag & Turf, the official Ag & Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
If you can't be at the stadium, there's no better way to watch your Cowboys than on an LG OLED Evo TV. That's because everything you see is more lifelike. Every play, every hit. I mean, you might as well be on the sidelines. That's how clear it is. It's all thanks to LG's legendary technology. Perfect black, over 8.3 million self-lit pixels. No one comes close. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game for a reason. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
From the field to the festivities, Lucchese embodies the essence of luxury and tradition. Handcrafted with meticulous precision, each pair offers unmatched comfort and style. Stand tall while you're tailgating or cheering in the stands with the Dallas Cowboys collection by Lucchese. Shop the collection today at the Lucchese store at the Star in Frisco or online at lucchese.com. Lucchese, the official boot of the Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Back to the break.
AT&T, connecting changes everything.
Hey.
Welcome back. Final segment of the break, live from the SWBC Morgan Studios at the Star, presented by LG. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Let's talk about this Cowboys offensive line, because I think as the season goes on, it's a storyline that we're going to continue to follow because of the youth and inexperience of that line. Let's start first with Cooper Beebe. Tell me what you've seen from him in the first 2 games and where you assess where he is relative to where you want him to be at this point.
This might be wild to say. I think he's been the most consistent guy up front. Talking all 5.
On the entire offensive line?
All 5, I think he's been the most consistent.
More than Tyler?
More than Tyler. I think he's been more consistent, especially in the run game as well. I think he's been able to pave some ways there. But it's been the pass game where it's only the 1 pressure allowed and 62 dropbacks, I think it's been.
Can I question a little bit
Absolutely,
on that?
yeah. Come on.
I agree with you in the passing game. I've seen some good things. I still think in the running game, he's not quite getting to the second level like I want.
Yeah, it's not 100%.
And I think there were actually a few times in this last game. It was actually both for him and Tyler Guyton. I thought there were opportunities they had in the run game if one of them would have gotten to the second level. Like there's a linebacker there, and it's like both of them are out there in space. They didn't get there, and I'm like, if they would have gotten there on that play, the first one was to I think it was to Rico, and it was early in the game. And there was a linebacker there, and it was Tyler who was out there. But if he could have gotten there and gotten that block, I think you spring him probably 10, 15 yards. But that's the part of his game so when you say in the running game, I still feel like he's not quite getting to the second level like I want him to, and that's holding this running game back.
And I think that's a fair assessment. I think overall, though, there hasn't been a lot to pull away from the running game up front, and I do understand what you mean from a Tyler Smith's perspective. I think whenever you look at the product of what he's being asked to do coming in as a third-round rookie, I think he's exceeded that really far going into
second game.
Exactly.
Playing
2 games, yeah. The snaps have been great, which that was the one thing we were really worried about, I think, at a point in the preseason. There hasn't been anything where Dak's had to jump or come back, or it's messed up a handoff, it's messed up timing, which is great. I think whenever you look at consistency, I look at Beebe as a guy who's just been consistent, snap in and snap out. Tyler Smith right there, though, for sure.
Yeah, you grade your 65 plays, and he probably has 3 bad ones. There was a time when they did the flip that down in the red zone we were talking about, and I thought I don't know if Smith or Beebe, maybe both of them went the wrong way. Maybe they heard the play.
I think I know what play you're talking about.
It's funny because Zach Martin stepped one way and took his guy, and then, the ball gets flipped to the outside to Zeke, and, there's both linebackers are running him down, and you're going, if you go back and watch the play, it's like Smith and Beebe both step to their left as the ball's going to the right, and you're going, something happened there. And then we talk about with the Cleveland game in the run game where there were things, and Koromora, the linebacker from, here's Koromora, Roquan Smith. I mean, you're dealing with these linebackers now. If you don't take a good angle, these linebackers are going to make the play. And there was a couple of times I thought where Beebe has been really. I mean, if you say the 5 guys, he is in the top 2 as far as you're like, man, this has been pretty good from him. You were worried. You were worried about him making calls, him making steps, him blocking guys, him getting to the second level. The 65 plays, there's probably going to be 3 or 4 of them that are bad. You just hope that not ones that kill you in the game. I thought in week 1, if you start talking about offensive linemen, Steele was a much better player. Last week, I didn't think he was as good. He kind of got beat up a little bit. He got turned around a little bit, and Granderson took advantage of him a couple of different times. So, but if you said, hey, who are the guys so far? I think Beebe and Smith, Tyler Smith, have been just fine for you for those plays.
Not many complaints from me. Again, when you look at him being picked in the 3rd round and what he's done so far, he's exceeded expectations in my eyes. I get it that we need to take it up a notch, but that's not just him. That's the line, the whole line as a whole. We talked about the running game and all of that and the help that they need to be able to create those holes for those running backs there. But him specifically, I thought he's done a very good job. And one of my main concerns with him and Tyler that we've gotten, by the way, that we talked about last week heading into I forgot, or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, just penalties. I think he's handled that area where he's not making those kinds of mistakes. And for guys like him, rookies, those are things that I personally pay a lot of attention to. Can you minimize mistakes? And now it's him getting to that next level of taking it up another notch. But as far as mistake, I think he's kept his game pretty clean.
Yeah, speaking of Guyton, I've noticed that he's had quite a few pressures he's given up in week 1 and week 2. And I heard this morning. It kind of puts it in context for both these guys. This is the first time in their careers that they're playing the positions that they're playing significantly.
Yeah.
And it's in the NFL versus real competition. So when you think about it from that standpoint, I'm like, both these guys are ahead of where they should be at this point. I don't think either one of them is killing you to the point where it's a problem. And yes, they have some areas they have to improve on, but I think you're getting enough from them to where you should feel positive about where they're going to be half the year this year, by the time you get to the end of this year, and then going into next year, which is really the thing. It's a long-term game on these two guys. But let's talk about Tyler Guyton now. What have you seen from him, and do you think he's moving in the right direction? Are you at all concerned about the number of pressures that he's allowing?
For me personally, no. Just given the size of the competition that he's gone up against in these first 2 weeks, and I think the thing that we were concerned about the most at points during training camp is, okay, how is he going to account for power rushers?
Sure.
And when you look at Myles Garrett, Carl Granderson, Cameron Jordan, and those guys that he had to go up against these past 2 Sundays, you like what you've seen. I mean, absolutely, the penalties are at least a note at this point. I'm not going to call it a concern because it's only 2 games. He's tied for 4th in the NFL for offensive lineman penalties. But I think going forward, there's still a lot of I think you see him increase in areas of his game every single week. And when you look at week 2 versus week 1 was definitely the better overall picture. But I think there are some things in week 2, like the hands are starting to come in just a little bit.
Yeah,
they're not as wide. His feet are moving off the ball a little bit quicker. And, that's what I've always liked from Guyton, his ability to kind of get off and create that separation. But I think there's still a lot of things that he can improve on still going towards into the season.
Yeah, that week 1 was survival. That's all that was. That was like, hey,
and that's fair.
I mean, it was just like,
the second half of the Saints game, it kind of looked the same way.
Yeah, it was. And that's what happens when all of a sudden it turns into what it was a track meet, and you have no running game to deal with, and you have no way. All you're doing is dropping back and throwing the football and having to, and they know you're going to. That's how when Dallas gets ahead in a game, that's what they do to opponents. With the New Orleans Saints, it just, okay, we're going to rush. You're not going to run the ball. And I think, to me, where the technique has gotten better, the hands have gotten better, he's got to work on the feet. The feet get him in trouble sometimes where he gets – but, he's also got to work to not getting tired, and that happens. That happens during games. You're just – the pressure of every single snap is just huge for these guys, and I think it wears him down at times. And, he's gonna develop mental toughness, that he can't take a play off. You can't rest on a play because you'll get the play blown up if you do. But the technique is getting better. The mental toughness will come along. And I think the kid will be fine. It's just a matter of, him having confidence that when he sets and gets away from the line, that he's in good shape, that he can get his hands inside and take care of that rusher when it's on his when it's coming down the middle on him.
And this is a no-brainer, but I mean, again, speaking about rookies, you have to take into consideration the aside from hand placement, footwork, that's all going to come with the experience. But also, remember how different the training and everything it is from college to the NFL as far as strength. How much a player from the first year to the second year changes in physical aspect and strength. So I think that's something that's also going to come along, and it goes hand in hand with what Bryan is saying, being out of breath, being tired. They're going to get used to that the more and more they do it.
Right.
But with that, in that same token, he's going to get more strength. Same with BB. Being the one that has now the most power in the line when facing these defensive players. So I think they're going to keep getting better as the season goes along. But hopefully it comes with Cowboys wins, because I think when you start losing these games and you're just constantly getting beaten down, that's when you just get what's the word I'm looking for? Just tired and worn down, and it just starts weighing
Looks
on you.
hopeless a little bit, yeah.
And it's just it carries a different weight, so it's just harder to overcome those things when you're not winning games and constantly getting thrown on the ground or losing those battles. So hopefully, with that being said, my point is hopefully they win this weekend.
You know, the thing about it, real quick though, the thing with BB, they're going to have their hands full with those guys inside. These are big men that they're going to be dealing with, and you know how he plays. They don't need to give up anything inside. They need to be sound in the middle and make sure they handle the edges in this thing. But BB is going to be dealing with a lot of power inside, and he's a strong guy too. And this will be a good test for them.
I know that you had said you had some concerns about Owe, but do you have more concerns about the interior or the edge guys here in this game? For me, it's the interior.
Yeah, I think that to me, considering that I saw Owe, you know, Colton Miller. I was watching him with the Raiders and stuff, a veteran left tackle, and he kind of took him to task. And I was a little bit worried about you know, with Guyton on that edge, if all of a sudden this guy gets into a little bit of a rhythm. You know, but the middle is. I think your better players are in the middle. I mean, I think your better players are in the middle of this of the offense. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that edge with Owe. I don't want him to get into a rhythm. If Dallas can't run the ball and it turns into Dak having to throw it 35 times, I don't need him to have 3.5 sacks in this game.
Yeah, that's the part that worries you is that if Dallas turns this into a game where they're having to throw a lot, then that just exposes Guyton even more.
It puts a lot of pressure on all those guys.
When he's trying to still figure it out.
I would say one thing that I would really like to see Dak work on if pressure does start getting to him in this game.
Get out of there.
Get out of there. He didn't get out of there enough against the Saints. And that was one of the first things that he said in his press availability on after the game on Sunday. He was like, one of the things I know I can correct is kind of get out and use my legs a little bit more. He was like, I did a really good job of that last year, but I didn't quite do that today. And so I think if pressure starts to get to him early in the game, hopefully he's able to use that athleticism a little bit.
It definitely slows down the defensive rush if you get out of there and make them pay for it.
Makes them think twice at the very least.
Absolutely. All right, we'll be back.
What happened to these calls, Mr. Advocate of the fans?
When I got into that third segment,
I knew it.
I was like, Amber's gonna talk the whole segment, and we're not gonna get to
patiently waiting here with the fans.
Sorry, fans.
Got my phone ready.
Next time, I'll figure out how to get Amber to shorten her, be a little more concise with her answers, and we'll get to some calls.
I see her looking at me, and you're absolutely right.
It's a good teammate. She didn't say anything.
It is. She didn't say it.
You can't tell where I'm looking at with these glasses on.
Oh, we can tell.
No, you cannot. I'm looking at the computer.
We feel it.
By the way, we know Amber, so we know what's going on behind those glasses, right? All right, we appreciate you guys joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll wrap this thing up, get you guys ready for Cowboys versus Ravens. Till then, for Nick Harris and Bryan Broaddus and Amber Garcia, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?